personally, when I was expecting the budget announcement, I was looking around, hearing a bit more around industry sector incentives. And is it the case that you've, in particular the concessions that you farmed out, you've kind of expecting sectors to channel their investments through that, so there's no need for actual industry sector incentives? For example, in '87, we rolled out the tax-free factory incentives as a way of, and we understand we generated up to about 20,000 people in terms of employment. And so I was just wondering whether, because I think for investors in say, for example, in BPO, which we represent, I guess there are concessions in, say, customs for the building costs and that kind of thing. Is that the reason why there weren't any sort of specific targeted incentives to industries, if you like? Yeah.
I think it's probably not comparing apples with apples. Post '87, Fiji was not classified as a middle-income country. You had duty-free access. Mark would know this a lot better than I do. Duty-free access into the U.S. market. And when those concessions ended, that's when a lot of the 20,000 job numbers actually dropped significantly, because we're a middle-income country. We could not, have the same benefits as, say, Bangladeshis of the world. So that's what was the game changer. And of course, if you look at BPOs, the different skill sets that are required. And we think at the moment that the cost of telecommunications has come down too, as you would know. FCCC's intervention has significantly come down. We have a huge investment now that's going in the Southern Cross cable, the next gen, that's coming up very soon. So those things are already in place. I think there's already, we think, very healthy tax concessions or incentives for the ITC sector. And we've, kept it at that. But, you have things like accelerated depreciation in terms of buildings, etc. So that's where it is at this point in time. And I think there are sort of specific new concessions, and I'm sure, you can venture into those areas too. For example, things like, I said, financing public buildings or building finances, and also in respect of subdivisions. Our key focus also, as you would have heard us announce yesterday, the rate of home ownership in Fiji is extremely low. Some of the people who may be holding, management positions in your organization could be living over tiri-tiri. There are people working in banks who are living in squatter areas. Because the stockpile of homes is very limited. Our way we approach home ownership is very different. What is actually considered a home is very different. We think when you say a home, we mean a block of land with one building stuck in the middle of it. But for a lot of people in the world, places like Singapore, even Australia, New Zealand now, a home is your strata title apartment, which you own. Freehold land for life or for 99 years, whether it's Itaukea land or whether it's, Crown land or state land. So we are working very, closely at the moment with IFC and through the private sector to develop about 6 sites, get private sector participation. And so the stockpile of homes actually become accessible and we can increase the rate of home ownership. That is very important to us. So if you see in the budget, one of the things we've done, we've said we will now, if a person earns less than $50,000 a year, if they're building their first home, and of course these kind of public building initiatives can be deemed for them to have built a home, we will give a grant of $30,000. If you go through a financial institution, if you got some money in FNPF, they may have $10,000 in FNPF in the general account, but of course if you're building your first home, FNPF allows you to take out 50% of your total funds, both in your general and your preserved account. You can withdraw that, you get a $30,000 grant, you're in a fairly sweet space. If you're going to build a home that's going to cost $120,000. And that, armed with that, you're going with your contribution to the bank saying, look, I'm bringing to you $40,000. I need $120,000 from you. The bank can look at it and say, okay, great, you can do the repayments, given the fact you've got a higher equity contribution. Those are the areas that we are looking at. So that, together with the fact that we are allowing various tax incentives for people who carry out subdivisions. If you carry out subdivisions of lots, commercial or residential, it's very, very lucrative. There's various tax rebates, plus any profits earned from the sale of those lots are tax exempt. So some new business proposals for some of you. You should get into that space.